Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and welcome to another episode of Life Recovery Today. So glad you're with me. Hope that something that's said today is going to inspire you, it's going to help you, strengthen you, and encourage you to stay with it and stay better. Well, throughout our program, every episode we've tried to present some kind of element of life change, because that's what life is. You're either changing this way or you're changing that way. Well, if you listen to older episodes of the program or watch older episodes of the program, we have these testimonies of folks that have worked recovery, and you hear the change that was necessary, and then you heard them talk about how did they do that change. A lot of people are so aware of the problem, they want it to be different, but they're not willing to do what it takes to change. Well, here's the thing. Today, I want to go a little bit deeper into the process of change. Change is never easy when it's a change from something we're comfortable with to something that's very uncomfortable. And many times, I have worshiped the God of comfort. When I was overweight, I worshiped the God of comfort. And what did I do? I sacrificed food to this, to get the comfort back in. And then I gained a lot of weight. That was a huge, huge problem. And the change, well, I've said this before, no one thing is going to change everything for the good, but one thing can literally destroy everything. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. Now, change is never easy, and it's never instant. And the thing is, once you change and go to another level, well, you don't want to stagnate there. There's always something else, another level to go. So, how do we do that? Well, I think that there are 6 steps that we need to go through if change is going to be real, lasting, and ongoing. Many people think that the change they're looking for is stopping something. Well, that's a really good thing if you're stopping something that's very destructive. But if all you do is stop, then you are stuck with that life that maybe stopped progressing and growing 10, 20 years ago, whenever you started doing the thing that you had stopped. But here, we're talking about change that makes a difference for the good forever. So here's a video for you on the 6 steps to change. I think it's a fascinating verse in the book of John, John 6:6. John 6, chapter 6, verse 66. And it says this, which, it's 666, weird. But it says, and they followed him no more. These people that were following Jesus, can you imagine if you had been part of the crowd when Jesus was there and they just went home? They just left. They just decided that they weren't going to be with him any longer. To miss an opportunity, to hear, to be with, to minister with, to follow the Savior of the universe. They really blew it. And so, a lot of times in the midst of discouragement or maybe in the midst of depression or desperation, we might think, oh, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Don't you give up. You know, the Bible says, not those that are perfect, but those that persevere receive the crown of life. And so we have to get through it. There's another verse out of John that has the number 6 in it, and it's John 3:6. It's where Jesus walks up to the man that's laying by the pool of Bethsaida, which was known to be a healing pool. And there were people all around, and he says to the man that's been there 38 years, "Do you want to be well or made well?" Man, what in the world do you think I've been here all this time for? You know, I want to be well. It just is such a great story about how a lot of people that say they want to get better, or they put themselves in a position to get better, they're really not willing to get better. So I want to talk to you about 6 different things that we need to encounter if we want to change or if we want to get better. Now, the first one is this. I find people that are stuck usually have 1 or 2 what I call fatal excuses. It's the thing that prevents any action or change going forward. You know, well, I don't want a divorce, and if I confront him, then he's going to leave and my children are going to be without a father. Well, if you don't do that, they're going to stay with a father who is drunk all the time, or a father that's out having sex with other people all the time, or whatever it is. Or you yourself, well, you know, if I don't continue with this drug here that relaxes me and changes my mood, I might hurt somebody. Or anyway, there are a lot of different things that we throw up that just let that whole movement toward transformation, that is, we're being tugged to get better. The Holy Spirit is, and God is drawing us to Him, and we just shut it down with some fatal excuse saying, no, I can't because of this. Well, think about it. Counter that excuse, that lie that you're telling yourself. What if that isn't so? What if that isn't really the worst thing? And what if the exact opposite result would happen, which is what we see when people change. They think, I may go crazy or whatever. No, they don't go crazy. They become sane, and they experience and enjoy life like they never dreamed that they could. So, counter the fatal excuse. Number 2, what are the benefits that you're experiencing of staying the same? If you're in trouble, and you're always in trouble, what's the benefit of that? Never, ever having to strive toward an expectation? Is that the benefit? Not having to deal with this deep-seated pain or whatever it is that you're running from? Not having to just be uncomfortable. Hey, listen, you can endure. You can stand to be uncomfortable if that's the price it takes to be free. How about this? Oh, I'm so uncomfortable with people. I'm independent. I don't want to connect with other folks. Hey, I get that. But you can, if it means your life and the kind of life that you've always wanted to live. So whatever benefit, it's a secondary benefit, or it's so far inferior of a benefit to the ultimate benefit of getting free and not having this horrible problem that you've got. Third thing, how about asking yourself this? What in the world is my biggest fear? Or what am I afraid of? Now, if I know what I'm afraid of, then I can deal with that fear. And I don't have to go back and figure out whether or not mommy and daddy love me and stuff. The way I overcome fear is to walk into the fear. So if I'm afraid of flying, I go to the place there in Dallas with American Airlines. They have all these people that know people like me. They walk with me onto a plane. After we've gone through classes, I learn about aerodynamics and why planes stay in the air. I go meet the pilot, and I remind myself that he is far more interested in me staying safe than I am even. And he's been trained, and there's no way this dignified looking man or woman is going to fly this plane if they think it's going to crash. See, I have to face it. I have to get on the plane to overcome my fear of flying. But if I just, decide, okay, I'll go get on the plane. well, there's a good chance I'll have a panic attack and I'll have to be taken off by a stretcher. So I need people to help me, and I need to learn some things about flying, and I meet people that are in control. All of that goes together so that I get over my fear. That's how I face the fear. What are you afraid of? Maybe a counselor could help you face it, walk through it. Maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's Bible study leader, but you don't have to live in that fear. Fourth thing, resources. That's what you're lacking if you're not changing. You're not willing to either look for the resource or comply with it. There are meetings everywhere. There are meetings online. There are meetings on the phone. There are meetings in almost every community. And so if you want resources for support so that you can change and maintain the change, it's there. But you have to admit to yourself, I'm not accessing the things that I need to. And maybe that's just because I've never, ever allowed anybody to give me any advice or encouragement or direction on anything. And maybe that is the problem right there. Fifth thing, you can look at all the benefits of why you're sticking with what you're doing, but have you ever looked at the cost? Here's the most amazing equation ever. I can give up one thing and have all of this, or I can give up all of this and keep this one sick, destructive, damaging, life-sucking thing that's hurting me and everybody else. Well, I'll tell you, if you looked at the inequality, if you could look rationally, you'd say, I got to give this up to have all of this over here. Last thing, number 6. What power are you tapping into? Yours? Well, that's a pretty weak power source, wouldn't you say? Here's where power is. First of all, it's not in saying, okay, maybe tomorrow I'll look at it. No, the power is here today. And that power is through God. Just to be able to say, I don't have all the power I need, I'm limited. God does have power. God does love me. He does care about me. And I'm going to let God be the overriding focus and power of my life. That's when change starts to happen. It's called surrender. There are 2 ways to surrender. Give Him everything, or just be willing to comply with a program, like a 12-step program, or 7 steps, or a counselor who's giving me steps every day, or a sponsor. If I want to change, well, maybe even if I don't want to change, I can, but I've got to turn willingness into searching for the resource and complying with what that resource says more people have done to succeed than anything else. That's what I want to see you do. If you need some help, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. What a great thing it is when you decide from experiencing all the symptoms of a problem to going deeper into the source and finding whatever you need to do to change. That's what we want for you.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net. It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back. I was going to say that we all love a love story, but not all of us love a love story. Not all of us love a story that's a great before and after story because it makes us feel bad and we think, what am I not doing? Well, if you're uncomfortable with those, it might be because they require change. Now, I'm hoping that you're going to take one of those steps I talked about, and you're going to begin that process of transformation. You're going to experience transformation maybe you thought was impossible. I got to tell you, in my marriage, I've watched transformation I thought was impossible. But with God, what we think is impossible is totally possible. Now, in the next segment, I want to talk to you about just the perfect subject for today. It's perfection. And a lot of you are in trouble because you're perfectionists. And it just doesn't go well when you're a perfectionist because it's never perfect enough. So what does it mean for your life? Is perfection attainable? We know it's not. And let's learn a little bit about what is behind the perfection, what does it stand for, and how do we go from being this person so distracted by everything being exactly the way it ought to be that we end up exactly the way we don't want to be. Watch this. Have you ever thought about the number 7? You see it everywhere, you know. I mean, we do have 7 days in a week. In the Bible, 7 is representative of completion or perfection. That's what it stands for. And you see it all over Revelation, you know, like the 7 churches and angels and just 7. I mean, lucky 7 is what people call it in Las Vegas. There's a guy named Alex Belos. He did a research project and he asked 44,000 people their favorite number. And number 7 was the favorite number of almost everybody. Isn't that amazing? I think 3 is a great number because of the Trinity. But we're not talking about 3, are we? No, we're talking about the number 7. The number 6, you know what 6 is? 6 is a little week. But we're talking about a whole week of 7 days and the number 7. Now, Hebrews 10:14 talks about this condition of perfection. And, you know, we don't want to be striving for a standard or goal or something that we can never achieve. We can't be perfect. But look what it says. Hebrews 10:14 says, "For by that one offering he forever made perfect those who are being made holy." So it isn't us trying to be perfect, but it's us believing that the act of crucifixion, death, burial, resurrection, that is how we can be seen by God as perfect. You know, if we're unholy and we're in the presence of a holy God, then the holy God isn't holy. So how do we come before a holy God as unholy? Because Jesus is the bridge between the two. He's paid the price on the cross for my sin, wipes the slate clean so I can stand before God in holiness and perfection. And there are literally people that believe you can achieve it under your own efforts. When I lived in Laguna Beach, there was an old guy, a greeter, that came by, and if you encountered him, he would tell you, "You're perfect." and obviously he didn't know me very well. But he was part of this philosophy that each person is perfect. Well, I would say we're kind of perfectly imperfect. that God knows we're not perfect. He's provided a way for us to be seen as perfect, and He honors that path. So if you want that path, let me give you 7 pieces of it. First piece would be asking God to come into your life and to help you find a better way of being. Now, that means following the teachings of God, looking at the life of Jesus, what He taught and how He lived. But first I have to ask God for help, and God's Word is the place that we find that help. Second thing, one of the biggest walls between us and a better life that's more reflective of God's character and Jesus' character would be stubborn resistance, where I just stop and I just resist everything and I think I know everything. And so any kind of stubborn resistance has to be replaced with willing acceptance and compliance. I've often said that the greatest quote out of the big book is where Bill W. says, "Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today." The opposite of stubborn resistance is acceptance, which can be the answer to all my problems today. The other thing that's a big barrier is arrogant entitlement, where we think we deserve something or we didn't get something, and because we thought we were entitled to it, we're bitter and resentful for the rest of our lives. And we have to overcome that if we're going to get better. And then justifiable resentment. When I'm resentful about something and I believe that I can justify that resentment, and somebody comes along and says, "Yeah, I'd be resentful too," then we just stick with it rather than get over it. There are a lot of things that people could stick with resentment over. A child being shot dead by somebody, you resent that person forever. I know a woman who her child was killed by a man and he spent years in prison. When he got out, guess what she did? Provided a place for him to live. Now that is forgiveness. And so when we want to go beyond arrogant entitlement, justifiable resentment, stubborn resistance, we humble ourselves before God. In the looking at the number 7, here's James 4, starting at the 7th verse, 7 through 10. Listen to this. "Humble yourselves before God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, for your loyalty is divided between God and the world. Let there be tears for what you have done. Let there be sorrow and deep grief. Let there be sadness instead of laughter and gloom instead of joy. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up in honor." When I can be sad over the mistakes I've made, when I can look to God for forgiveness, He will lift me up. And I don't have to go through that anymore. As my wife says, it's humbling down. What a great gift to myself when I humble down. Fifth piece of all this is pain. You can't avoid pain. You can numb it, you can try to run from it, but there's just going to be pain. Look at 1 Peter 4, 1 through 2. It says this, "So then, since Christ suffered physical pain, you must arm yourselves with the same attitude He had." Now, when I read that, I thought, absolutely, I can have that attitude. It's easy to say you're going to have an attitude. But then one day I was really focused. It was a rare thing to be really focused. And I read the rest of the verse where it said, "You must arm yourselves with the same attitude that Christ had and be ready to suffer too. For if you have suffered physically for Christ, you have finished with sin. You won't spend the rest of your lives chasing your own desires, but you will be anxious to do the will of God." Well, wow. Attitude's one thing. Willingness to suffer is something else. And, another translation, as I was looking into this, says that when you have experienced physical pain, that's when you're done with sin. So if you're in some kind of sinful relationship, and you're willing to painfully extricate yourself from it, now you're done. Now you're finished. So maybe we're still involved in unhealthy things because we don't want to experience the pain. Embrace the pain, go through it, and then you get out of the thing that's causing you damage. Sixth thing I want to talk about is strategy. Most of us have a strategy, and it's defective or deficient. And when we say, I'm going to give up that strategy and look to God's path, then I have some, and this is number 7, hope. I'm no longer wishing things got better, wishing things could improve, but I have true hope that they will get better. I don't know what you're struggling with, but I know this, that God has called us to a life that many of us, well, we've heard it's there, but we've never experienced it, and we never ever will until we finally humble down, surrender, and ask God to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. The good news for all you perfectionists, we can be made perfect, but only through the grace of God through Jesus Christ. Now here's what I'm talking about. A lot of people say when you sin, you're going to have this stain on you the rest of your life, so don't sin. Well, you know what? That isn't true. God says, I'll remember their sins no more. As far as east is from west, I will remove their sins. White as snow. White as snow. Not white as snow with some chunks of bark thrown in, but white as snow. You have a chance to be perfect through Jesus Christ. Now, I hope that everybody that watches this has made a decision to have Jesus Christ as the higher power, your higher power. I hope if you were a Christian before watching that you decide to finally make Jesus the higher power, not just someone that gets you into heaven. If not, I hope that you're going to make that choice today. Because really, what does it profit somebody to gain a lot of chips in recovery, but you lose your soul? And when Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me, He was talking truth. And that's hard for some people to accept. They think, oh, that's so exclusive. Actually, the invitation is for absolutely everybody. And if you think your belief is more important than God's truth, then that's going to be a problem for you. But here's the word that starts it all: surrender. When you surrender to the higher power of life recovery, Jesus Christ, everything starts to change. Thank you for watching. If you need help, call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.